All right, hello once again, Jeff Scott of Rankin Technical College, and I have been going over the online textbook, AppInventor2, Create Your Own Android Apps, by Wolber, Abelson, Spertus, and Looney. I've now gone through the first 12 chapters. Before I go on to Chapter 13, the Amazon bookstore, which I am going to go into next. But before we do that, I brought up on the emulator the project we created in the last chapter. So there's the connect, and you can see there's nothing in the pick list right now because I'm not connected to any robots. It didn't really show very much, but I just did want to show you that indeed that it was built. All right. So with that said, let's go on and go into Chapter 13. Remember, this is our last regular chapter, so to speak, and afterwards we go into what they call the App Inventor Manual. We're going to have more in-depth explanation of some of the topics that were covered during the chapters that went through the actual tutorials. All right, so it says, suppose you're browsing books on your favorite bookstore and you want to know how much the same book would cost at Amazon. With the Amazon at the Bookstore app, you can scan a book or enter the ISBN, and the app will tell you the current lowest price of the book on Amazon.com. You can also search for books on a particular topic. Amazon at the Bookstore demonstrates how to use App Inventor to create apps that talk to web services. Web services are APIs. We're going to talk about what an API is in just a couple minutes. It is an acronym that stands for Application Program Interface. This app will get data from a web service created by one of the book's authors by the end of the chapter. Ideally, we should be able to create our own custom app for talking to Amazon. We'll try it. The app has a simple interface where the user can type in the ISBN number, which is either a 10 or a 13-digit code that uniquely identifies the book, and then list the title, ISBN, and lowest price for a new copy available on Amazon.com. It also uses the barcode scanner component so that the user can scan a book to trigger a search rather than entering the text, which would make it easier, especially if you're working on a phone. So in this app, as mentioned right here, we'll learn how to use the barcode scanner with an app, how to access a web information source. In other words, in this case, Amazon's API through the TinyWebDB component. We talked about TinyWebDB in an earlier chapter. We'll review that again in a little bit. We'll learn how to process complex data returned from a web information source, how to parse it, so to speak. So we're going to do something like this. You can see that basically we've got a very simple interface. We've got a text box, 3 buttons, all right, a label here, and I'm not sure exactly what that component is, but we'll put that in also. Now, the author also mentions here you'll be introduced to source code that you can use to create your own web service API, and if you want to do that, you have to use Python. All right. Now, the next section is what is an API, and I really and truly, even though I've done a bit of it during these tapes, I don't like to read to people. I want to give you my definition of an API. Probably doesn't totally jive with what the author's is, or maybe with what anybody else is. I look at an API as being a contract. I had to sign a contract before I started here at Rankin Technical College. They offered me a certain dollar figure, and they also, in the contract had things that I was supposed to do, things like morals clauses, etc. All right. Well, what does this have to do with anything? Well, in my world, an API, an application program interface, is a contract that you make that's made between you and the software, where the software says, hey, you can use me and I'll provide this functionality to you. All right, so that's the part of the software. And then you have to agree that if you're going to use this software, you have to use it in the method or in the way that it's expected to be used. All right? So the author here says, let's take a closer look at what an API is and how it works. An API is like a website, but rather than communicating with humans, it communicates with other programs. APIs are often called server programs because they serve information to clients, which is you. That's how they interface with humans. If you've used the Facebook app on your phone, you're using a client program that communicates with the Facebook API server app. In this chapter, we'll create an Android client app that communicates with the Amazon API. The app will request book and ISBN info from the Amazon API, and the API in return will return up-to-date listings to the app. The app will then present the book data to the user. Notice the API, Amazon API you'll use here is specially configured for use with AppInventor. All right? So we use TinyWebDB to communicate with Amazon. We've done that in an earlier chapter. You may or may not remember that the tinywebdb.get value is used to request information and then process the information returned in the tinywebdb.got value event handler. All right, we looked at this back in Chapter 10 for the Make Quiz and Take Quiz app. All right, before creating the app, we need to understand Amazon's API protocol, which specifies that the format of the request and the format of the data returned. Just as different human cultures have different protocols. And to give an example, here in the United States, typically, we shake hands when we meet other people, but in other countries, you may bow, you may nod your head, you may do something else. So just like humans have different protocols, so do computers. The Amazon API, as they mention here, that we will be using, provides a web interface for exploring how the API works before we start using it. The API was designed to talk to other computers, but the web interface makes it possible for us to see just how that communication happens. So they mentioned following these steps are the ones that are shown starting on the bottom of the page here. We can try out what particular get value calls will return via a website, and know that the API interface will behave exactly the same way when we ask for data via the TinyWebDB component. So we're going to, they tell you first to go out here. So let me just put that address up here and hit enter. And what didn't it like? Whoops. Oh. So let's Google. And we'll put that in there. Okay. So I want to see if this is the same URL as what's shown in the book, because it's possible that it's been updated or upgraded, so it's not. So in our textbook, they show this right here. http://AI. Oh, we needed the 2 in it. So it's Amazon API 2.appspot.com. All right. And notice they say this is the website that will be shown, the AppInventor compliant API Amazon books. And it is the same one. All right. I guess I could bring this up in a different browser or in a different window. So there's the way that it shows here, and here's the way it shows in the textbook. So you can see they are the same thing. Okay? All right. Let's just continue. Whoop, I guess there it is. So On this web page, you can try a function. So they say, for example, put in baseball. So let's try that. And click the Get Value button. And you see that we're returned some stuff about baseball. It's not in a very nice format. We'll work on that in just a bit. How about if we put in AppInventor2 and we click Get Value? And you can see what we get. All right. So when we put in baseball, the value returned was the list of books about baseball, each enclosed in brackets and providing the title, the cost, and the ISBN. If you look closely, you'll notice that each book is in fact represented by a sublist of another's main list. So in other words, we have a list within a list. The main list is whatever we type into the search bar, be it baseball, AppInventor2, or something else. Each sublist or book is enclosed within its own set of brackets within the main brackets. So we've got a list of lists. Each left bracket denotes the beginning of a new list. So there's an example. Here they just broke out one book. So it says the sublist has 3 parts. It's got the title, which is right there. It's got the lowest current price on Amazon, which is right here. And it's got the ISBN for the book, which is right here. It says when you get this information into your AppInventor app, you will be able to access each part by using select list item with index 1 for title, index 2 for price, and index 3 for ISBN. Rather than searching by keyword, we can also search a book by entering in its ISBN. All right, so we can put that in. So for instance, let's find the ISBN for the textbook that we are actually using here. I'm going to try this and see how it works. So I'm going to come back to here, and I'm going to put in the ISBN without the dashes, I think. 978-491-90684 -2 or 2. And notice what we have. All right, let's continue on. So I'm going to now get back in to App Inventor, and I want to create a new project with this name, Amazon Books. And according to this, we want the title to be Amazon at the Bookstore. All right, so we've got that done. We are connected already to the emulator, so we'll be able to do our live testing, which is a good thing. So, time to come in and design our components. Again, the user interface is relatively simple. A text box for entering in the keywords, so there's the text box. 2 buttons for starting the 2 types of searches, search by keyword or search by ISBN. A 3rd button for letting the user scan. Then a heading label where it says search results, and another label for listing the results that Amazon returns. And 2 non-visible components, TinyWebDB and barcode scanner. Now, I'm at 14 minutes. I may or may not have time to build it, to set up the interface in that amount of time. So I'm just going to stop here, and we'll continue on in just a couple minutes.